Deep in the sterile confines of Research Station Omega-7, floating silently in the void between distant stars, a team of the galaxy's most brilliant xenobiologists gathered around a frosted cryopod. Their large, multifaceted eyes reflected the soft blue glow emanating from the ancient human vessel they'd recovered from the depths of space. "Remarkable," Chief Researcher Val Thex whispered, his translucent appendages hovering over the control panel. "After 3,000 years, the primitive stasis technology still functions. The biological readings are stable." His assistant, Zinra, nervously adjusted her atmospheric filter, her scaled skin shifting colors with anxiety. The human inside was perfectly preserved. A military specimen, according to their scans. The recovered data fragments suggested he was a survivor from Earth's last stand during the great solar flare that had forced humanity to flee their home world. This discovery could revolutionize their understanding of human physiology and adaptation capabilities. The Council advised against this, Zinra cautioned, her voice trembling. The historical archives warn about human unpredictability. Their species survived catastrophes that would have ended any other civilization. But scientific curiosity outweighed caution, as it often does. Val Thex initiated the revival sequence. The pod's crystal surface began to clear, revealing a face that hadn't seen starlight for millennia. The human's vital signs steadily climbed as the preservation field dissolved. None of the scientists noticed how their advanced medical sensors struggled to get accurate readings from his enhanced physiology. The first sign that they'd made a terrible mistake came when their subject's eyes snapped open, not with confusion or fear, but with the sharp, calculated awareness of a predator. Before anyone could react, his hand had already found the emergency release. The pod door exploded outward with impossible force. "Containment field!" Val Thex screamed, but the human moved faster than their security systems could respond. He rolled out of the pod, his movements fluid despite thousands of years of hibernation. The scientists watched in horror as he easily broke through restraints designed to hold creatures 3 times his size. "How?" Zinra gasped as the human effortlessly dodged the stun fields. "His muscle density is off the charts. The cryo-sleep should have caused severe deterioration." The security drones converged, only to be systematically dismantled by hands moving too fast for their optical sensors to track. The human paused, surveying the chaos he created in mere moments. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of someone who had witnessed the end of their world and survived. "Where am I? What year is it?" The universal translator struggled to keep up with his precise military cadence. Val Thex raised his appendages in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "Please, we mean you no harm. We are researchers, scientists." He froze as the human's gaze locked onto him, feeling for the first time what their ancestors must have felt when they first encountered humanity's warriors. "Scientists," the human repeated, a dangerous edge in his voice. "Then you should know better than to cage a soldier who watched his homeworld burn." He moved toward the laboratory's main console, his steps purposeful. "Now, you're going to tell me everything that's happened since Earth fell, and then we're going to have a long discussion about why you're so interested in studying humans." The research station's alerts blared as their subject accessed systems that should have been impossible for him to understand, let alone control. As emergency protocols activated around them, Val Thex realized with growing dread that they hadn't just awakened a human. They had unleashed something their advanced civilization wasn't prepared to handle. The station's emergency lights cast crimson shadows across the laboratory as the human's fingers danced across the holographic interface. Val Thex watched in fascination and terror as their subject processed 3,000 years of galactic history in minutes, his enhanced neural pathways adapting to their advanced technology with frightening ease. "The Sol Preservation Initiative," the human muttered, his jaw tightening as he accessed restricted files. "You found more of us." It wasn't a question. The research station's database confirmed his suspicions. Other cryopods had been discovered scattered across the galaxy, each containing survivors from humanity's desperate exodus. Zinra stepped forward, her scales now a pale shade of diplomatic blue. "We've located 17 pods in total," she explained, trying to keep her voice steady. But you're the first we've successfully revived. The human's eyes narrowed at her careful choice of words. Successfully? His voice carried an edge sharp enough to cut through steel. What happened to the others? The silence that followed was all the answer he needed. The laboratory's temperature seemed to drop as his expression darkened. Val Thex quickly intervened, his appendages weaving patterns of scientific explanation. The hibernation technology was experimental. The neural damage in most cases was extensive. We didn't understand the intricacies of human physiology. Your pod was different, military grade. The enhancement patterns in your cellular structure protected you from degradation. The human's laugh was hollow, echoing through the chamber. Protected me? No, they made me. His fingers brushed across old scars that the scientists had assumed were hibernation damage. Project Sentinel, the last line of defense for a dying Earth. We were supposed to protect the evacuation ships, buy time for civilians to escape. His voice grew distant, lost in memories of humanity's final hours. Warning signals flashed across the station's monitors as more secure systems fell to the humans' relentless digital assault. Archives, classified research, military coordinates. Information that had taken the Galactic Council centuries to compile was being absorbed and processed in seconds. Fascinating, one of the junior researchers whispered, recording the humans' impossible neural activity. The enhancement protocols seemed to have evolved during stasis, adapting. They fell silent as the humans' gaze snapped to them, realizing too late that their subjects' enhanced hearing had caught every word. 2,000 light years, the human said suddenly, his eyes fixed on a star chart. That's how far we are from Earth's coordinates. He turned to Val Thex, and for the first time, the alien scientist saw something beyond the cold military efficiency. A deep, burning purpose. Your kind has been studying us, tracking down survivors, treating us like specimens. Why? Before Val Thex could respond, the station's AI announced an incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. The human's hands blurred over the controls, intercepting and decrypting the message in seconds. His expression hardened as he read, revealing the truth they tried to hide. Earth wasn't dead. It had healed over the millennia, becoming a restricted zone under alien control. Our home, the human's voice was barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of The station's gravity generators fluctuated as emergency protocols activated, responding to the growing threat. But the human remained unnaturally still, his enhanced mind processing centuries of deception. Around him, delicate scientific instruments cracked under the pressure waves emanating from his augmented form. 3,000 years, he said quietly, each word carrying the weight of lost time. While we slept in the void, you rebuilt our world without us. The laboratory's reinforced windows revealed the endless starfield beyond, and somewhere out there, a blue planet that had once been home. Val Thex's appendages trembled as he tried to explain. The Council believed it was necessary. Human unpredictability, your species' remarkable ability to advance and adapt. They feared your return would destabilize the galactic order we'd established. Even to his own ears, the words sounded hollow, bureaucratic excuses for an unforgivable theft. Destabilize? The human's enhanced voice resonated with barely controlled fury. You found our scattered children, sleeping in the stars, waiting to go home. Instead of waking them, you treated them like lab specimens. How many died in your research? His hands clenched, the station's metal walls groaning in sympathy. Zinra's instruments registered impossible readings as the human's enhancement protocols shifted into combat configuration. Beneath his skin, experimental military tech that had evolved over millennia of hibernation came alive, responding to its wielder's rising emotions. The defense fleet is approaching, she warned, watching dots of light appear on the long-range scanners. They're charging weapons, but the human's attention was focused on something else, an encrypted transmission he'd intercepted from the station's deep storage units. More pods, he breathed, hope and rage warring in his voice. You have more of us here, in stasis, waiting. The look he turned on the scientists wasn't just anger. It was the accumulated weight of every parent who'd lost a child, every soldier who'd failed their charge, every survivor who'd carried the guilt of living while others slept. Val Thex moved to block the storage unit's entrance, his scientific curiosity finally giving way to genuine fear. Please, you don't understand. The pods are protected by automated defense systems. Even with your enhancements, you can't. The human's movement was too fast for their eyes to track. One moment he stood by the console. The next he held Val Thex gently but firmly aside. You don't understand, he replied softly. I'm not going to fight your defense systems. They're going to help me. The station's eyes screamed in digital agony as the human's neural implants invaded its network, centuries of military programming overwhelming its modern safeguards. Security doors slammed shut, trapping the scientists in the laboratory as their own systems turned against them. Through the laboratory windows, they watched the approaching defense fleet suddenly break formation, their weapons powering down as the humans' digital assault spread from ship to ship. On their screens, status indicators showed the storage unit's stasis fields powering up, preparing to revive more of humanity's lost children. You studied us for centuries, the human said, his voice carrying a determination that sent chills through the alien scientists. But you missed something fundamental. We never fought just for ourselves. The station's lights flickered as power redirected to the stasis chambers, and in the darkness, his enhanced eyes glowed with purpose. We fought for home. The storage unit's massive doors slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing rows of cryopods bathed in pale blue light. But as the human stepped forward, his enhanced vision caught something the alien scientists had missed: subtle differences in the stasis field patterns, variations that told a story they hadn't wanted him to know. These aren't just survivors, he whispered, his augmented senses scanning the pods. These are my unit. Project Sentinel wasn't just a defense program. His hand traced the frost-covered surface of the nearest pod, wiping away millennia of ice to reveal a familiar insignia. We were the first wave. Val Thex's appendages twisted in distress as classified files spilled across the laboratory's screens. Mission parameters, enhancement protocols, deployment strategies. The Council's archaeological teams found evidence. He admitted, your Earth didn't just fall to natural disasters. Something was coming. Your leaders knew. The human's enhanced muscles tensed as ancient memory blocks began to dissolve, releasing information his own people had buried in his mind. The solar flare wasn't an accident, he said, his voice carrying the weight of recovered truth. It was a weapon, Earth's last resort against something worse than extinction. Warning klaxons blared as the station's deep space sensors detected massive energy signatures approaching from the direction of Earth. The defense fleet, still under the humans' control, moved to intercept, but their weapons seemed insignificant against the scale of what was emerging from folded space. 3,000 years, Zinra breathed, her scales shifting to colors of primal fear as the readings resolved into recognizable patterns. They've been waiting for someone to wake you. The sensors showed massive biological signatures unlike anything in the Council's databases, ancient and patient and hungry. The human's laugh was bitter as more memories surfaced. Now you understand. Earth wasn't your prize to claim. It was a trap, and you've been sitting on it for 3,000 years. His enhanced systems interfaced with the station's computers, bringing up orbital calculations that stretched back millennia. The flare wasn't meant to destroy Earth. It was meant to put it into hibernation, just like us, to hide it. Through the station's windows, space itself seemed to twist as the ancient threat began to take form. The human's hands flew across the controls, initiating revival sequences for the other Sentinels. Your council thought they were protecting the galaxy from us, he said, watching as the first of his fellow soldiers began to stir. But we were protecting everything from them. Val Thex watched in mounting horror as the human's enhancement patterns shifted, revealing weapon systems and tactical capabilities far beyond anything they'd imagined. What are you? He whispered, finally understanding just how badly they'd underestimated their specimen. The human turned to him, his eyes glowing with power that had slept for 3,000 years, waiting for this moment. We are humanity's sword and shield, he said, as behind him, more pods began to open. And you just woke us up in time for the real war. The station shuddered as the first wave of ancient horrors reached the outer defense perimeter. But in the storage chamber, more Sentinels were awakening, their enhanced systems synchronizing, ready to fulfill a mission 3 millennia in the making. Humanity's greatest warriors hadn't been sleeping. They'd been waiting for the enemy that had driven them from Earth to return. And now, the real battle for home was about to begin. Space erupted in chaos as the ancient enemy's bioships engaged the defense fleet. But they hadn't counted on facing something older than themselves. Humanity's last line of defense finally awakened. The storage chamber hummed with power as 23 Sentinels activated their combat systems, their enhanced bodies moving with lethal grace as 3,000 years of hibernation melted away. Barrier protocol engaged, the first human announced, his neural interface synchronizing with his awakened companions. Around the station, energy fields shifted as forgotten human technology stirred to life. The alien scientists watched in awe as their research station transformed, revealing weapon systems that had laid dormant in its very framework. "Your council didn't build this station," he explained, watching understanding dawn in Val Thex's multifaceted eyes. "They found it, an ancient human fortress disguised as a scientific outpost, waiting for the right moment." The station's true form emerged, a battle platform designed to protect Earth from horrors that lurked between the stars. The Sentinels moved as one, their enhanced bodies glowing with power as they accessed weapon systems beyond even the Council's understanding. The flare wasn't just a weapon, one of the newly awakened warriors explained, her tactical systems already analyzing the enemy's patterns. It was a beacon, drawing them back when we were ready. Through the station's viewports, they watched the ancient enemy's bioships dissolve under concentrated fire from weapons designed specifically to destroy them. But the victory felt hollow as the Sentinels' enhanced senses detected energy signatures building up within Earth's core, a failsafe they had hoped would never be needed. "That's why you couldn't wake our people," the first human said quietly, watching his homeworld begin to pulse with terrible purpose. "Earth itself is the final weapon, the planet's core, transformed by the solar flare, waiting to be triggered." The alien scientists finally understood. They hadn't been preventing humans from returning home. They had been being protected from what Earth had become. Valvex's instruments registered impossible energy readings as the planet's defense systems activated, responding to the presence of humanity's ancient enemy. "Can it be stopped?" he asked, watching the chain reaction begin to build. The first humans' enhanced systems interfaced with Earth's defense grid, accessing protocols buried deeper than even the Council had discovered. "No," he said softly, "but it can be contained." Around him, the other Sentinels nodded grimly, understanding what had to be done. "You formed your council, built your civilization, studied our sleeping people," he continued as the Sentinels began to power up their enhancement protocols beyond safe levels. "But we were never meant to come home. We were meant to protect home, by keeping everyone else away from what it had become." The station shuddered as the Sentinels channeled their combined power, creating a containment field around Earth that would last for millennia to come. The price was their enhanced bodies burning out, but they had sworn an oath 3,000 years ago to protect not just humanity, but all life, from what slept beneath Earth's surface. As the ancient enemy's ships burned and Earth's core settled back into its artificial slumber, Val Thex looked at the humans with new understanding. "You're not staying, are you?" he asked, watching them disengage from the station's systems. The first human smiled sadly, his enhancement patterns already beginning to fade. "Earth isn't our home anymore. It's our duty." He turned to his fellow Sentinels, seeing the same resolution in their eyes. "But out there, scattered among the stars, our people are still sleeping. And now that we're awake, we have a new mission," he declared as the station's long-range sensors detected more human stasis pods hidden in distant corners of the galaxy. "It's time to bring our children home, not to Earth, but to a new world, one where they won't have to be soldiers." The alien scientists watched as the Sentinels prepared to leave, their enhanced bodies bearing the noble scars of their final victory. They had saved the galaxy, not through destruction, but through an eternal vigil that would keep ancient horrors at bay. And somewhere out there, humanity's scattered children were waiting, ready to build not just a new home, but a new future. In the days that followed, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session to process the truth about Earth and its guardians. The Sentinel's story spread across civilized space, transforming 3,000 years of fear and suspicion into understanding. Humanity hadn't been a threat to contain. They had been the shield that protected everything. Val Thex and Zinra found themselves at the forefront of a new era of cooperation, their research station becoming a bridge between species rather than a place of sterile observation. The remaining stasis pods, scattered across the galaxy, were no longer treated as specimens but as precious cargo, each containing someone's child, parent, or loved one waiting to be reunited with their people. The enhancement protocols were never about making better soldiers, the first human explained during their final meeting. His eyes had softened since the battle, the weight of his ancient mission finally shared. They were about surviving long enough to ensure our people had a future. Around them, the station hummed with renewed purpose as search vessels departed, carrying maps to hidden human outposts. The Sentinels established their new base on a pristine world far from Earth's eternal quarantine zone. There, they began the careful process of awakening their sleeping kin, not all at once, but gradually, giving each group time to adjust to their new reality. Children who had gone to sleep amid apocalyptic chaos woke to find themselves safe. Families torn apart by the evacuation were quietly reunited. Stories spread through the council worlds of human ingenuity and sacrifice. The species that had been feared for its unpredictability was now honored for its foresight. The solar flare that had seemed like destruction had been salvation, not just for humanity, but for all sentient life. Earth stood as a silent guardian, its transformed core holding ancient horrors at bay, protected by technology that had waited millennia to serve its purpose. But it was the personal moments that truly bridged the gap between species. Zinra found herself teaching awakened human children about the galaxy they'd inherited, while Val Thex worked alongside Sentinel engineers, combining their technologies to create better futures. The fear of human unpredictability gave way to appreciation for their adaptability. "We spent 3,000 years studying you," Val Thex admitted during the farewell ceremony, "but we never really saw you until now." The first human, his enhancement patterns now permanently altered by the final battle, nodded in understanding. "Sometimes the best way to protect something isn't to cage it," he replied, watching as another transport of awakened humans departed for their new homeworld. "It's to give it room to grow." His gaze drifted to the station's viewport, where Earth shimmered behind its containment field, beautiful and untouchable, a reminder of sacrifice and duty. The Sentinels maintained their vigil, not just of Earth, but of the growing human colonies. They were no longer just warriors. They had become bridges between the past and future, helping their people build something new while honoring what was lost. Their enhancement protocols, evolved over millennia of sleep, found new purpose in creation rather than combat. As the last transport prepared to depart, Val Thex asked the question that had lingered since the battle. "Do you regret that Earth can never truly be home again?" The human smiled, watching young children who had never known war play with alien young who had never known fear. "Home isn't just a place," he said softly. "It's the people you protect. And sometimes, the longest sleep leads to the most beautiful awakening." In the end, the story of humanity's guardians became legend across the galaxy, not as conquerors or threats, but as protectors who had sacrificed their own homecoming so that others might find their way home among the stars.